Good morning and welcome to the Dan Beasley Show. Today is 6/14/2013, Friday, and it's 11:20 a.m. in Hartsville, South Carolina. This is Dan Beasley coming to you with headline news and news that has not hit the major airways yet, and some that has. And we will be adding commentary at the end of the show, of course. I hope you are having a great Friday. Hope everything is good with you, and we'll be getting into our news right now. This is coming from CNN.us, and we're talking about the packed restaurant deck that collapsed into the Florida Bay. They were having an NBA event, the NBA Finals. Patrons were cheering on the Miami Heat as they watched the NBA Finals on a deck above the South Florida Biscayne Bay on Thursday night. And just as they stood to cheer, a heat basket, a hostess recalled, the packed deck collapsed, spilling them into the bay, the water. About 100 people were on deck of the Shuckers Bar and Grill at the time of the collapse. And according to authorities, 24 victims are being treated, 3 of whom have critical injuries. Officials believe that no one is missing. So anyway, that's in the news. Moving on, President Obama has decided to give aid to the Syrian rebels, but he has decided against sending troops. He has authorized lethal aid to the Syrian rebels, marking a deepening of U.S. involvement in the 2-year civil war. U.S. officials are still grappling with what type and how much weaponry to send opposition forces and how to ensure it stays out of the hands of extremists battling for the control of Syria. Should be a side note here that Russia is also arming the al-Assad regime that's in control of the government at the time, and they're getting this is sort of like us pitted against Russia indirectly using Syria. And I've heard that there's like over 93. They said that 93,000 people have been reportedly killed in Syria and have died from chemical weapons used by the al-Assad or Bashar Assad regime. So this is a reason for our involvement. Okay, moving along. Moving along, we've had a shooting in St. Louis. 4 people are dead, and several others are in custody after a shooting at St. Louis business. Police say that 2 men and 2 women were shot dead about 1:40 p.m. at the Cherokee Place Business Incubator, according to KTVI. And there's no active search for shooting suspects. They said the St. Louis police tweeted that the shooting was a murder-suicide and that the shooter was no longer alive. Moving along to our next news item. Michael Savage had a caller to call into his show recently. This is according to WNDnews.com. And he says that the government has been spying on people for years. And this is nothing new from the NSA. There's a project called Echelon that is out of this country that is being used to spy on the U.S. citizens. And it records every electronic communication, whether it's a fax, whether it's phone, whether it's email, whether it's chat, what have you. If it's digital and it's communication, it's being recorded. According to WND.com, the NSA scandal is the biggest story of your life. The surveillance scandal is the biggest story of your lifetime. That was Michael Savage's message all week. as details emerged about the extent to which the government has been spying on millions of Americans. He says, however, they obviously were not spying on Muslims or people that are known to have associated with terrorists. Savage pointed out, otherwise the authorities would have prevented the Boston Marathon bombing. Calling whistleblower Edward Snowden a patriot, not a traitor, Dr. Savage declared that the NSA scandal makes Watergate looks like what it was, a green pea inside a tidal wave, which is a spoof off of The Tempest in the Teapot by Jamie Dimon and the Great Whale incident with the meltdown of investments overseas by J.P. Morgan Chase. The next news item coming up is there's strange, according to WND World, there's strange glowing night clouds spreading across the southern hemisphere. Well, it said wispy clouds are appearing in the twilight sky, and their noctilucent clouds have appeared in earlier and farther south than ever before. And they said the noctilucent clouds exist high in the Earth's atmosphere than any other cloud type. First observed in 1885 following the eruption of Krakatoa, the famous volcano, for changing the Earth's seasons for that year. They were a site reserved for the Earth's northernmost residents. In recent years, however, the intensity and frequency has increased, often at latitudes previously thought to be too far south for noctilucent clouds to form. They're over the North Pole. They've been noticed over the North Pole for June 10th, 2013. And they said the southern creep of noctilucent clouds is an early warning signal for climate change high in the atmosphere. Now, new data from the NASA Cloud Observing AIM satellite supports this possibility. According to Blacklisted News, the UN prepares to go to war. This is the United Nations, not the U.S. Prepares to go to war for the first time with 3,000 strong task force sent to fight rebels in the Congo. So we're going, there's a war breaking out in the Congo. Security Council voted unanimously to intervene to fight the rebels in the Congo. 3,000 UN troops will be wearing the blue insignia and being deployed to the Central African nation that's been racked by years of civil war and lawlessness. Much of the fighting now is over the country's natural resources, which include large quantities of gold, copper, diamonds, and coltan, which is a mineral used in cell phones. According to the organization World Without Genocide, violence has killed as many as 5.4 million people, making it the bloodiest conflict since World War II. The use of child soldiers in the conflict is said to be common, and in many areas armed gangs are free to roam at will, terrorizing local populations. The next item in the news: the Supreme Court has ruled that human genes may not be patented. The Supreme Court ruled unanimously Thursday, and this is from blacklistednews.com, that human genes cannot be patented, a decision that could shape the future of medical and genetic research and have profound effects on pharmaceuticals and agriculture. The ruling was a split decision for Myriad Genetics Incorporated, which holds patents on genes that have been linked to breast and ovarian cancer. Justice Clarence Thomas, writing the decision for the court, said that merely isolating those specific genes called BRCA1 and BRCA2 are not worthy of a patent. Myriad has found the location of the BRCA1 and 2 genes, but discovery by itself does not render the genes patent eligible, Thomas wrote. And this is going to make possibly the testing for these genes to be cheaper, because it's going to open up competition in the markets. According to abcnews.com, the lung transplant for Sarah Myrnigan, the little girl that was waiting for the transplant and had only a few days to live. They put her on the adult list for receiving a transplant. According to the family, the recovery is going to be long and hard for the 10-year-old who received a transplant after her family successfully fought a rule that said it had prevented her from qualifying for adult lungs, her mother wrote on Facebook. Sarah Merrigan of Newtown Square, Pennsylvania, was dying of cystic fibrosis when her family brought the under 12 rule, a little known organ transplant policy, to national attention after arguing it had been pushing Sarah to the bottom of the adult lung transplant waiting list. The family won a court order to put her on equal footing with adults on the transplant list and prompted an organ procurement and transplantation network policy change to allow for occasional exceptions. And the family won the court order. And as you all know, that Sarah was very sick going into the transplant. Therefore, the road is hard and long, says her mother. And we're all focusing her attention on Sarah, and as a result, are silent at this time. But they're also promising to keep us posted on that. Okay, moving into another abcnews.com story. Iranians are being drawn into voting for a new president. Iranian voters appeared to heed calls to cast ballots Friday in a presidential election that has suddenly become a showdown across Iran's political divide. Hardliners looking to cement their control and re-energize reformists back into lone moderate left in the race. The balloting kicked off with Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei delivering a salty rebuke to U.S. questions over the openness of the presidential contest, and telling Washington to stay out of their business after casting his ballot in a race widely criticized in the West as rigged in favor of Tehran's ruling system. Also from ABC News, there's a story coming out. Well, pardon me. I thought I had another news item, but obviously not. So please excuse my lack of attention in this area. It's been a long week, and it's been extreme temperatures here in South Carolina, and we've had some major problems with weather and other items as well, and also things going on in the world regarding the internet and things of that nature. And that brings us to a part of our show that we usually get into a little later, but I'd like to discuss it with you. I'm not here to twist your arm or make you change your mind or make you change your life one form or another, but there is a decision that you have to make, or that you should make before something were to happen to you and you were to lose your life. Would you consider what your status would be if you found yourself facing God and you had not made a decision in your life to continue to live in a godly manner according to what he's laid down in his book that he left us concerning the acceptance of his Son, Jesus Christ, who came and willingly went to the cross to shed his blood and his body to save us for all of eternity. Once we do expire on this earthly plane and we enter into eternity, we have to know, I know some people probably don't subscribe to that idea, but you should consider for a moment that you